Hi people, hope you're doing good. This is Danny, and this is a deconstruction of a new single called Voices, and getting some really interesting reactions on this, mainly because of the fact that this incorporates a choir, quite a kind of gothic sounding choir into the mix. And yeah, this is a kind of deep house, almost garage house kind of track that has the kind of traditional kind of parallel chord stabs, but with the vocals, the choir complementing those in quite an interesting way. So let's just stop there, and just to let you know, this is available on the 11th of November. It's a TrackSource exclusive, okay? It will be appearing in radio edit form across streaming platforms afterwards, but TrackSource have the exclusive on this. I'll put the link below because it's available on pre-order right now. So the choir, right? And everyone's going to me, oh yeah, that choir sample. Now, this is not a choir sample, but then again, technically, you could argue that samples are at the source here. Right, let me just filter. Oh, I'm going to solo the voices. Let's have a listen to these in isolation. I'm just zooming in here. You can see that we have actually MIDI parts. So these have been played in. These are programmed and played. So this is not a sample that I've taken from a library. This is not something you will hear anywhere else. This is something that is unique for this song. But when I say song, it's not really a song, it's a track, right? And you can see that there are layers here that are being built up. There are 3 separate MIDI tracks. In fact, 4. So these are all combining to create that section. So you're thinking, okay, well, what is it you're using? Now, there's a lot of really great choir libraries all of a sudden, and the Native Instruments Complete library, the new Omnia choir is fantastic. It's huge though, it takes up a lot of hard disk space. I haven't been able to evaluate that just yet because I don't have enough free space, but I'm really looking forward to that. There's also the Contact library has its, the new Contact library has some choir stuff, which is fantastic too, but I'm also a big fan of Spitfire audio, and Spitfire had this a deal on this choir fairly recently, so I went for it. And so what this is the Spitfire Audio Originals Epic Choir. This comes in different configurations of voices, and so you drop this down, you can see here. If you know your classical, then you'll know that the voices are split into groups, and essentially they cover different, almost like different octaves, different pitch ranges. So if you're not familiar with that stuff, it's a good subject to go and do some research on. So in essence, the groupings are kind of low, medium, and high. So sopranos and altos are kind of medium and high. And then, if you go here to bass, you've got tenors and basses. So that's what's going on here in terms of the naming scheme. So I selected different groups according to the kind of tone and range of the voices that I wanted. And let's go to the first ones, these really kind of stabby staccato syllables. Okay, so these are not sustained long notes, they're short, percussive, energetic sounds. So let's have a look at these. And you can see it's a very limited range on the keyboard here that these notes will play. So that's because of the fact that they're categorized as sopranos and altos. But these sound amazing, right? They sound amazing. And I thought, why not I try and do this kind of almost like Game of Thrones, gothic, dark, sinister almost choir, because I thought that could work really well in a club. It could be quite interesting. And so it's an experiment. I know that some people are not going to like these choir vocals, so I've made it available as an instrumental as well. So that's there for those that are too scared in the club or at home listening. But I thought it was really interesting. I love this. Personally, I'm down with it. When I release stuff because I love it, all right? And sometimes I'm the kind of producer that doesn't always play it safe. I do stuff on instinct, and for me, the instinct was that this is a good thing to do. And thankfully, some reactions have been incredible. Okay, so another set. So these are lower. Once again, same instrument. So Spitfire Audio Originals Epic Choir, tenors and basses. But once again, the staccato, syllables, that percussive, energetic sound. One thing you may notice on the far right-hand side is I've used the track delay. I've brought these earlier because there was almost a slow attack on the sounds. And when they combined with the chord stabs that I've got in the background, it felt like they were lagging. So I've just moved those slightly earlier on the tracks. So that's what you can see here. So minus 48 milliseconds. So those two staccato ones are going on there. And then I have sustained. Let's bring these in. And so, oh, wrong instrument. Here we go. Let me select the right one. So sopranos and altos, long R. So that's in the background. And then I've automated the volume here to create a crescendo, layering those together to create this choir that's backed up with the other one here. So let's bring those in. Let's have a listen to these. These are rising gradually in volume using the automation. These are sopranos and altos long R. These are combined with the others. Slightly different panning. So the new ones are left to 11 on the panning, and then 17. In fact, look, they're on the left, but it's slightly different positioning. All right, so you can see that here. So they create this kind of tension just before everything kicks back. And so, yeah, they're a very important part of the track. But let's bring in, let me solo all the voices and bring the chords in. So the chords are over here. This is using Phase Plant, which is an instrument I love. This thing is great. You know, for doing your own sound design, I created this sawtooth instrument. It's very simple, with a filter envelope here to create this kind of squelchy kind of texture every now and again. This is mapped in to a ladder filter. I've got a delay, then there's a compressor. So these are all running together to create the chord sound. So the chord sound is also running through some kind of traditional live plugins too. And this is, let's have a listen. So this now becomes, you know, where it was kind of Game of Thrones and sinister choir thing, now we're getting that familiar parallel chord vibe coming in. And this is one of my chord presets. And look, I named it after one of my heroes, Kerry Chandler, Kerry Starr. These are the kind of chords that traditionally he may have used before. If you want to steal this, you're talking about plus 10, plus 14, plus 15, plus 19. Those of you who are musically trained, you'll be able to identify what kind of chord that is. I can't. Right, so here we go. So they're working in partnership, you know, the staccato choir and also the chord coming from the synth plant, phase plant, synth plant, that's another one. So, phase plant. And there's a lot of other stuff going on here. Let's take a look at the bass line. So let's bring this in. Let's come to that section. So we've got unconventional and conventional working together. There's the bass. Very familiar bass sound. This is the Yamaha DX7 emulation from Arturia. I'm a big fan of this. This is running in the vintage mode with the DAC down here, so it's got that noise and that grit, which I wanted as part of the character of this. That bass is using track spacer, so the kick is essentially being triggered at the same time as some of those bass notes, which means that there will be a clash. So this is using a very frequency specific sidechain going on there to clean things up. That works very nicely. A little bit of EQ as well here. I played this on the subsystem and it felt like it was a bit too messy with the kick, because actually the kick drum is a pretty heavy kick. All right, and let's just take a look at that. I'll come back over here. That's an immense kick, and this is coming from the Wave Alchemy guys again. You know, I use their libraries a lot. So This is from the Drumvolution for Live library. It's tape 1 kick deep 009. Very serious kick drum. Let's just take a look here. There we go. There's a clap. Another clap. Open hat. And these are working in conjunction with a couple of other kind of sampled looped layers. I remember putting this together at speed. I don't always use loops, but I felt like I wanted to quickly get some energy up and running. There is a hat loop here. Can't remember where I got that from. So that's working in the background. Also a tambourine loop. That's a familiar break that's been kind of cut and rearranged. And then crashes and so on. There's also another kick here. This is an 808 coming once again from Wave Alchemy. And another 808 kick. So all of these drum elements. It's got that real heavy, warehousey kind of sound to it. Reminiscent of many lost nights for me in the main room at Ministry. You know, I remember tracks having these kind of real heavy bottom end aspects. So that was a bit of a challenge trying to get the bass line in there as well. So that's why I use track spacer. And the EQ, of course, those two working together. So yeah, really heavy beats. Then it goes into that kind of beats and bass line groove with the chords. In terms of other musical elements, there are not many. Okay, there really are not. There is a noise texture that I've layered on here. Let's just have a listen to this. I've forgotten what I did with that. There we go. And that's being sidechained by the kick to create that pulsing kind of texture. And that's just really just a background thing, just to add a bit more vibe. We have an organ. Okay, so this is to complement the chord sounds, and this is where we start to get a bit more kind of conventional and a bit more kind of gospel housey. So this is Contact using the basic gospel instrument, and I'm using the latest version of Contact, which is incredible. I love the thing. Part of the recent complete upgrade. It's fantastic, particularly the library. I do need to try to find some time to do a separate video about that. So here's the organ, solo. And then there's a synthesizer arpeggio here. And really, you know, the whole thing is when you've got existing elements that you've heard already. Yeah, I'm using a bit of filter modulation every now and again on the chord stab. But you want something to add a bit more liveliness. And so that's what I've got here just at these points, only at this point, because if I had this running all the time, it would be boring. This just accentuates those chord changes. And I'm actually using Live's built-in arpeggiator here, you can see that, but the grid is 32, so that's really fast, you know, fine granularity there. The instrument itself is, Native Instruments is Super 8, and it's a very simple patch. And that's very short. You can see the envelope here, the filter envelope, which is creating that kind of nice, kind of almost plucky kind of texture to it. I'm running it also through an auto pan here, and you know, that's creating that movement left and right. I've also modulated. So where are we? The one of these, I think it was. Yeah. So over here, let me see the automation. It's on. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that I changed something there, but I can't see it for some reason. Where are we? Let's drop this down. There we go. So I changed the transpose distance on the ARP. So at the end, it sounds different to how it was before. So listen. And then because it's, you know, building up to a new section of the track, changes. So the higher notes in the arpeggiation go actually literally stepped up higher. So that's that. Then we've got a nice new texture. And this is coming up with some automation. I do love this. Oh. What is going on here? I've got to be honest with you, I'm having a few issues. I don't know what's going on, whether it's the latest version of Live that I've installed or something. I don't want to point the finger at all. but this is not the correct version of the sound. There are some issues here in loading this. I haven't loaded this project for a while, but I do have a license for Falcon. I do have my iLook plugged in. I just have a bit of an issue here. Shame I can't show you that properly, but if you get the track, you'll be able to listen to it properly. So that's a Falcon preset, and it's lovely. It's really, really fantastic in the track. I'm trying to see if I can even see the name here. I don't want to touch anything because it might break something. Yeah, very weird, very weird. But anyway, yeah, so I might have to do a clean install. I've been thinking about that fairly recently. I've been installing so much junk over the year and a half, whatever it is, I had this computer. I feel like I need to do a clean install. But anyway, so this ARP sounds lovely. It's coming up. You can see the automation, so the volume is gradually coming up, then it kind of dips down and comes back after. So that's a great new addition. And, very common to need something new if you've heard something before, because actually the breakdown is similar. But that's a deliberate thing, I wanted it to feel reminiscent. If you've already heard it, you recognize it and you know what's coming. Okay, on this build up, there is a high string. Let me come back to that, which is called Triton. And this patch is classical music. It's just a string that's played high up on the keyboard. And then also this synth here. Let me bring this back. Hopefully this is going to load, but as I said, I've been having some issues. Yeah, look at this. Oh man. So that was the Mini V from Arturia, and another one of my very strange new issues, and I don't know what it is that's triggered this, is where I was using complete control before, and I had instruments, they're not loading. And my solution temporarily at the moment is that I would look at this instrument and load this preset and get that fixed. It could be to do with the changes with, I've moved on to the M1 version of the Ableton Live now. And so there are still some issues, I think, in terms of my library of plugins and how everything's configured. So it's issues on my side. I don't think it's anything to do with the companies. So there's a Mini Moog V siren synth there. It's just kind of like doing an octave, and it was legato to create that siren-y bend. And then we're pretty much there. It's everything kicking back again, nothing new. So that's it, I think. It's a vibe, it's different, that's for sure. Let's just quickly, whilst we're here, take a look at the master settings. I've done something different again. I've been experimenting. I've got Ozone 10, which has some brand new capability for mastering, and I've got to say I'm really sold on these new capabilities. I always used to like, the limiter of the Ozone. I wasn't so much of a big fan of the other things, but I spent a bit more time with it, and you can see I've been going on a journey here using different plugins, and ignore the ones that I'm not using, the ones with the power off. The ones I am using, I'm using tape and using utility just to bring the volume down a bit before it hits everything on Ozone. The AMAC, because I've got that on lots of other channels, I'm using that for kind of like an analog summing. And then I've got the Ozone 10, so this is the new one. And I used a reference. So Mike Milrain is a really good mastering engineer for Garage House, and so I took one of the tracks that he'd mastered for Mark Cottrell. And in fact, this is actually a Mike Milrain remix. I love the sound of this, so I used it as a reference. And you can get it to learn the kind of sonic personality of one track and then apply it. And so I really loved how this was sounding. So I did make a couple of other tweaks here and there, because you do have the granular capability to get in there and play around with the recommendations. But I loved the way that this thing sounded. And, I've tried lots of different approaches for mastering over time. And this may or may not be the way that I do stuff next time. Who knows? But anyway, for me, it sounds great. I tested a whole bunch of systems. It sounds fantastic. So that's what's going on with that. And that's pretty much it. So look, I don't have tons of time to get involved in comments, but if I can, I will do. And just a reminder that this is out now on pre-order on Traxsource, and it's going to be available to download on Friday, the 11th of November, and then on streaming in a couple of weeks for people who just want to consume the radio edit. The extended version is not on streaming. Okay, that's it. All right, take care.